Hi everyone, I am so excited and honored to be a finalist for the Yalsa Nonfiction Award. Being placed with such fantastic company was pretty shocking, and I'll admit for the first week I was too scared to tell anyone because I was pretty sure there was a mistake. But whatever happened, I would guess they decided to let it slide, and I really am thrilled and thankful for this opportunity. As the child of a historian, I was raised to understand the value of truth, of primary sources, of learning from the past. My whole life, I've been surrounded by books filled with the real stories of men and women whose lives have made a mark on the way we tell the history of the world, for better or worse. The strange thing is, I really never set out to write a YA nonfiction book. But over the past year, I've come to appreciate the power of the genre. I have always wanted to be a writer, but I never expected anything to come of that dream for a very long time, if ever. And then something happened. The summer before I started eighth grade, my parents cleaned out the office in our home in Brownsville, Texas, and found a book that my dad had bought at a thrift store years before I was born. It was titled Betty Cornell's Teenage Popularity Guide and was published in the early 1950s. My mother came up with the idea to follow Betty Cornell's advice during the upcoming school year and write about the reactions of others as well as my own reflections. I had always struggled a great deal making friends. Bullies called me geeky and ugly, and I had learned how to stay as invisible as possible as a means of self preservation. So, of course, I immediately turned down the idea. But the same desire that pulled me to my books, that longing for the kind of adventure that filled their pages, had made it impossible not to try. Over the 9 months of the school year, I covered the main topics in Betty Cornell's book, followed her advice, and recorded what happened. I learned that the kind of popularity Betty Cornell talked about wasn't what it is shown to be in movies and televisions, hierarchical, unfair, cruel. Instead, it was based on being a good friend, reaching out to others with compassion and understanding, and presenting yourself in a way that made you feel confident. It was timeless and applied to everyone, no matter their age. Betty taught me that greeting the world with your head held high will never go out of style. That original journal has blossomed into something I wouldn't have dreamed when I picked up Betty's book. This past year, I've had the opportunity to travel, to meet and write to readers who my book has helped. I met Betty Cornell herself and so many other authors who've had a powerful impact on my life. This has all been an amazing, wild ride, and I am so immensely grateful for it. And none of this would have been possible without books and librarians. Some of the first days of my life were spent passed between the arms of my student parents in the university library. Since that moment, I have found the most solace in that place between shelves, between faded and tattered book covers. My middle school library was an oasis, a second home for me, and so much of this had to do with the amazing librarian who worked there. The warmth, humor, and acceptance she exuded made it a safe place for so many students who felt picked on, lonely, and different. She had a talent for choosing the perfect book to get you through whatever crisis was consuming you, and the advice she gave was unparalleled. Having somewhere I belonged made all the difference in giving me the confidence I needed to begin the experiment. I became drawn to the true stories of people who'd recorded their own adventures, finding encouragement in their surety that they were important enough to be remembered. I turned to reading nonfiction because it was inspiring. The more I hear back from readers and the more I read myself, I am reminded of why. It tells teenagers that their story, however insignificant it may seem, is part of a much bigger and complex fabric of history, and they each play a unique part. I didn't set out to write a YA nonfiction book, but in doing so, I became the hero of my own story. I want to give a big thank you to Yalsa and to my amazing Penguin team, my editor Julie Strauss Gable, my agent Daniel Lazar, and to all the librarians and readers out there who recommend Popular and any other book to someone who needs it.